So, has Paul Bryan actually lost his mind, or is he a secret genius? Now, when Paul Bryan put this up, people went crazy. Like, look at this. These are big name people going, like Amy Gray going, great idea. Or Daniel Sharman, he's no goose, he loves the idea. Or Greg Chadwick, like, he is quality. He's like, well said. So, on one hand, you got all these other people who I look up to and respect going, hey, I think this is a great idea. But the actual question is, has Paul Bryan lost his mind? And the short answer is maybe, but I don't think so. I think he's actually a genius with this. So let's have a look at why. So in his industry, which is coaching, and coaching is so untangible. It's not like, oh, you go and deliver something and it's a product, you can see it. That's not coaching. Coaching is the coach puts in work and then the person getting the coaching puts in work too. And then between them, you end up with a result. But here's the thing, it's like, how do you know you're going to get a result? And that tentativeness holds people back. So Paul's trying out this thing of going, right, if you get a result, you pay me. If you don't get a result, you don't pay me. And I'm just like, okay, that's very clever. So what that is it's called a risk reversal. Now, what we need to think of as providers is how can we create risk reversals in what we're doing if we're delivering a service, particularly for that first session. Okay. Now, here's where Paul might be losing his mind a bit if he's not careful. You can't just offer this to anyone. You have to vouch for the person that you're going to do this for. So if Paul Bryan, let's imagine Michael Clark was to say, hey, Paul, I'll take you up on your offer. The first thing Paul Bryan needs to do is check, is Michael legit or is he not? Okay, because when you're doing a risk reversal, you need to know that what you're offering to someone is going to someone who is keen on it, who is determined to implement, and who's not going to stuff you around. So Paul Bryan might say, go and look through some of my old posts and go, oh, heaps of Stu Paul on that. And he might give Stu Paul a call and go, hey, Stu, does Michael have integrity? Does Michael do what he says he'll do? Does Michael stuff you around? Is he organised? And then if Stu Paul's like, yeah, Michael's the real deal, then Paul would potentially consider taking on someone like that. But if Paul Bryan gets any red flags from talking to someone, don't do risk reversal work for them. That would be the difference, I think, between this being genius and this being disastrous is do your due diligence before you just take someone on at this. Now, where this might be good for a new provider is you consider when you're doing stuff as a new provider, how can you just get your word out there? How do you get your first testimonials? How do you get the runs on the board of being clearly someone who knows what they're doing? Maybe they'd also come up with something like this, but I think Paul just doesn't care. I think Paul's just happy to give something a crack and see if it works because he's running an experiment. But short answer, has Paul Bryan lost his mind? No. Okay. Should Paul Bryan do this sort of stuff with a plan and carefully? Yes. I'll bet he's already doing that, But either way, I just hats off to him for giving this a crack.